definitely my strongest areas are in writing and directing. I've directed 4 short films, I've produced 3, I've written 4, and I have in pre-production right now a web series that we just signed on a producer for, and I've got in development right now, me and my writing partner, a short film that we're hoping to shoot this summer. So that's kind of a little bit of my background and what it is that I do. Today I want to talk to you guys mostly about story, because story is the most important part of filmmaking. You can have a really amazing camera, you have a Red Epic or an Alexa or whatever it is, and if you're not filming a good story, it's going to be boring. Nobody cares. Everything else hinges on that. That's why at my school we talk about story is king. Number one thing. I want you to think about like some of your favorite movies. Right? Actually, so I can kind of get a gauge on the audience here. Like, just say, what are the names of some of your favorite movies? The Matrix. You, what's your favorite movie?
What, Bob? Comedy.
Okay. How about you?
The Notebook.
The Notebook. Okay.
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption. How about you?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean. Probably my favorite movies are, that's tough. I like Gladiator a lot. If you want to go like classic movies, I like Ben Hur and a lot of Hitchcock stuff. And these movies are really compelling to us because they have really strong characters that are making really tough choices a lot of times. Like The Notebook is a movie that people identify with because it's about these like really deep running emotions and the conflicts that those emotions create in our lives and how to make decisions. That's what drives a story. Like, I wrote a story this morning. I'm going to read it to you. It's really short, and I'll show you one. There was a person named Danny. Danny went to school every weekday. Danny hung out with friends on the weekend. When it was time, Danny got a great job. Eventually, Danny died. The end. Now, is that an interesting story? Sounded good to you. What is weak about that story? Why is that not interesting? Like, imagine if that was an hour-and-a-half movie. Okay? And every day we just saw him go to school, come home, and on the weekends he hung out with his friends and he went home. And then he got a job, worked at a job for a bunch of years, and then he died. Why is that boring?
There's no conflict.
There's no conflict. Yes. Any other ideas about why it's not good? You don't know anything about the character.
It's too ordinary.
Too ordinary. Right. Like, you want to see a movie about somebody that gets put in extraordinary situations, right? Something that you don't do every day. Because that's what makes it interesting. Conflict, what he said, is what drives the story. If there's no conflict, then why are we watching it? Like, think about the scene where this kid goes to school. Okay? He goes to school and nothing happens. Why would you even put that scene in a movie? Like, we've all seen really bad movies where they'll show a person like drive to work, walk into their front door of their job, they'll sit down at their computer, they'll turn on their computer, and it takes 2.5 minutes for them to do that. And nothing happens. That's because there's no conflict, and we're all bored when there's no conflict going on. So that's the main thing that we're going to work on today, is how to inject conflict into your stories and how to do that in a way that communicates an ideal. Because another thing that little story is missing, let's say I shot that movie. What would you say that the message of that movie was? Right, there isn't one. That's one of the problems with it. Like a movie like Shawshank Redemption has a powerful message behind it that the author is trying to communicate to the audience. Most good movies have that, a strong theme. And that theme is going to be what you wrap every scene around. So you need to, one of the first things that you need to think about when you start writing your story is what your theme is going to be. What usually we call a moral argument. Because there's going to be a message that you're trying to communicate to the audience. And you're going to use characters and settings and conflicts to compel the audience to feel a certain way about that subject, whether it's an anti-war movie or whatever it is. Like if you've ever seen Schindler's List, like that whole movie is just packed in such a way to make you feel an emotion that Steven Spielberg wants you to feel. He wants you to walk out of that theater having had your eyes open and your heart changed about that particular time in human history. And all movies, well, I'm not going to say all because there's exceptions, but most movies have this, even comedies, like where you think, oh, well, like it doesn't really need to be about anything, right? It can just be like, oh, we're just having fun, and it's kind of a series of short, like funny skits, but if you think about most comedies, they even have a theme of some sort. A lot of times they're about friendship or being loyal to each other, and that's what drives that movie, is that there's two people that are friends and they're betraying each other, but then they realize that they need to come together in order to conquer whatever obstacles there are, right? So that even in those kinds of movies, themes are really important. So what you want to do is you want to start with the theme. What do you want to communicate to your audience at the end of this movie? And this theme ought to be something that you're passionate about, okay? Like, one of the surest ways to misfire in this step is to try and make a movie about something that you don't personally resonate with. Because it'll seem phony, it'll seem fake, you don't really understand the conflict. So you need to make movies about things that you know, things that you feel passion for and that drive your heart. Okay? So the first thing to think about is your theme. Then what we're going to do, it's kind of a weird thing because the theme and like the idea of the movie almost don't necessarily have to go together. Like, it's really weird, but trying to think about how to start a talk like this, it's like, well, you can start in one of two places. You can start talking about theme, which is really important, or you can start talking about idea generation. Because a lot of times it's like, oh, I really like making movies, I really like telling stories, but you sit down in front of that blank piece of paper and you're just like, what am I going to write about? Like, I haven't got the slightest idea where to start. So what we're going to do real quick, I'm going to walk you through how we're going to do this, but we're going to do a little idea generation exercise. This is something that I did in college, and I thought it was the dumbest idea. To be honest, like, you'll probably all think this is stupid too. Because like I'd been writing on my own for like 10 years, and then I go to college and I have a teacher that's telling me what I'm about to tell you, and I was like, that is ridiculous. I already have 8 great ideas for a movie that I want to do, and I don't need your little suggestions on how to do this. This is for people who don't know what they want to make movies about. But actually 2 of the movies that I made in school, I came up with out of this exercise. So like at the end of the day, I kind of had to eat my words. Apologize to my teacher for making fun of them. So this is called the Wheel of Ideas. Yes, it's really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose three things. Think of this almost like Mad Libs, where you're gonna catch. We're gonna pick three places. Okay. Somebody shout out a place. Arkansas. Another one. Less United States. Paris. Alright, and I'll choose the last one. Alpha Centauri. Alright, these are our places. Now I'd like three ideas for characters, like types of people, archetypes, like policemen. Walmart, window salesman. A window salesman. Jack 47. That's not that silly. I wrote one about sex. Alright, so these are our people. How about an object? Strobe light. A strobe light. A portal gun. Everyone knows what a yeah? Okay. So, this is the wheel of ideas. And what we're going to do is you can kind of see there's three sections here. And what you do is draw a triangle. Three of these things. And what we're going to do is we're going to split up into groups here. Dom has some paper here, like a Dom. Pads of paper. Oh, yes. So we're going to kind of split up into groups, and we have some big, like, newsprint, whatever, sheets of paper. And each group is going to come up with three ideas for a story. Okay? It might be about a window salesman. You know what? An Alpha Centauri. Yeah. Who finds a portal ring. You know, like, you write a story about that. Okay? And you're just going to come up with three ideas and start fleshing out like what that story might look like. Okay? What you want to come up with for each one of these is called a log line. Okay? And a log line is a one-sentence synopsis of a movie. Okay? Like, the log line for Star Wars would be something like, backwater farm boy Luke Skywalker falls into adventure when his uncle is dead and he is taken in by an older wizard. That's the plot of Star Wars. Okay? So that's called a log line. And that's what, like, in the business, this is how you actually, like, sell an idea. Is, you know, you meet with a studio executive or something, and like, or a producer, and you're like, I have a great idea for a story. And they're like, what is it? And you know what you don't do? You don't go, well, it's kind of about this guy, all right? And he, I don't know, how do you put it? He's the sort of guy who, like, that's not what you do. You go in there and you have a sentence ready that says everything that this guy needs to know about the story to drag him in. Okay? So that's what we're gonna go through here. So soon as he gets some tables in here, we're going to do that. Does anybody have any questions about it? Okay.
Are we using those words to generate the ideas, or are we doing our own wheel?
You can do either one. I would suggest that you do your own wheel. I know it can be a little difficult sometimes. Like, actually, for the one that I did, like it's my favorite film that I've made. I actually was having a lot of trouble even coming up with the words. Like, that's how bad I had writer's block. It's like, all right, I need a place. I can't think of places. So I actually just wrote place into Google and did an image search, and I just chose the top 3 image search, like the top 3 things that returned, and so I was like, one of them I think was Afghanistan. One of them was a rock concert, and I don't remember what the other one was. But I basically did the same thing for all those. And you can do whatever term you want. It's not like it has to be an object, people, and place. Like, it can be anything. It can be time period. You know, like maybe you're going for a little Doctor Who action, and you want things to happen all over the place. We did a lot of period pieces. So yeah, just whatever, and put down things that I would say put down 1 or 2 things that you already know you find interesting, but put something down also that you normally wouldn't make a movie about. That like isn't, because it'll stretch you and it'll kind of get you thinking in terms that you normally wouldn't think. This movie that I made is called Incoming Tempt, and it's about, you know, like the shoulder angel and the shoulder devil, like kind of thing. The movie that I made is actually like about the angel, who's really bad at his job. Like, he's supposed to like keep this guy out of trouble, and he's terrible at it. So, and it, like, that is the sort of thing that's really kind of cartoony. It's kind of a cliche image, and something that I normally wouldn't make a movie out of. But when I did my Google search for character, a little angel popped up, and I am not the sort of person who would normally make a movie about an angel, but because I had to write it down, because that's the rule that I set for myself, I ended up coming up with like one of my favorite ideas that I've ever come up with for a movie. So, you know, you want to stretch yourself and put yourself in a place you wouldn't normally go to automatically. So, any other questions about idea generation or theme or anything like that? Okay. Well, they've got the tables getting set up right now. If you want to bring chairs over there, and we'll get out the pads of paper, and I'll walk around, so if people want help with anything as far as, like, again, coming up with ideas or figuring out how to write a good log line, because that's something that's really hard for me to explain, but as we go through, I can kind of help you guys write them, and you'll kind of see how it works, because that's like the first big step. So what we'll do is, as a group, once we come up with like 3 ideas, each one of your little groups that goes together, you're going to choose one that you're going to use as your example throughout today. Okay, because we are going to go from this to actually outlining an entire short film that's based on this idea, whatever you guys choose. So we're going to actually go all the way through it, and you guys will have an actual viable idea for a film at the end of the day. So, all right, let's